Checking. All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Yahweh is the true, holy, and powerful name of the Heavenly Father. Bahashem, meaning in the name. Yahushai is the true, holy, and powerful name of His only begotten Son, who is the Savior of the nation of Israel, starting off with the elect within the nation of Israel. And Israel consists of you so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, as well as you Israelite foreigners scattered abroad that may look like the nations where you've been scattered to, but are Israelites. And I also want to give double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, pushing out this word in all sincerity and in truth. All right, this is Brother Yakov from the GMS branch out in Des Moines, Iowa, coming back at you with another lesson inspired by the Holy Spirit, Habakkuk. And as you see in the title, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, the desolation draweth nigh. All right, and that's pursuant to a scripture in the book of Luke, and Lord's will we grab that. But you know, you've been seeing the mobilization of the militaries, all right, targeting Jake heavily, Jake neighborhoods, all right, over in DC. Or you got Trump talking about he wants to send the military to Chicago, all right, and various other places, you know, to get rid of the crime, all right, the issue of crime, all right, which is, you know, Jake is off the chain, you know, these YNs and everything like that, and ultimately it's the judgment of the Lord. It's what we read about throughout prophecy, throughout scriptures, all right, and we see that it's at the doors, all right, and the precept that I quoted, all right, that comes from the title, you know, that's in reference to 70 AD. So with that being said, we're going to hop into Josephus here, Lord's will. All right, we're going to go into different events that were happening during 70 AD. But seeing the mobilization of these troops, all right, is a sign that the desolation is nigh. All right, just like it was a sign going back during the time of 70 AD. All right, and as it is written in the book of Ecclesiastes, let's grab that. All right, it's also a sign in these times, man. Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 9. Ecclesiastes 1 and 9, the thing that hath been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Right, so what happened in the past, all right, reoccurs. It happens again, all right. And just like the Lord gave us that warning, all right, when the enemies are surrounding Jerusalem, all right, once again referencing 70 AD, all right, that desolation was about to come, the destruction, the judgment, heavy judgment upon Jake. All right, it's the same thing that we're seeing now. We're on the brink, the cusp of Jake starting to get slaughtered in mass numbers, man. All right, it's written throughout the scriptures. The prophets have been warning about it. All right, the time of Jacob's trouble and so on and so forth. And we're right there at the brink of it, man. All right, so this isn't a light thing, seeing these troops coming in. And ultimately, all right, they're using Jake as the scapegoat of why these troops need to be sent to these various areas. All right, but the whole goal has been to make, you know, America a police state. All right, you see that Trump is moving like a king as a dictator. You know, he's playing around with he's playing around with that idea. You know, he said in an interview, you know, some people are saying I'm a dictator. He's like, I'm not a dictator, but some people like the idea of, you know, of being a dictator. You know, it might be what we need. And, you know, roughly paraphrasing what he said, but, you know, it's showing that he's that cruel Lord spoken about in the book of Isaiah, the 19th chapter. All right, and he's going to be used, all right, Esau, Edom, ultimately, man, all right, with these troops to come in like a flood and devour Jake, man. All right, Jake is going to get devoured just like the Romans devoured our people in 70 AD, as we're going to read about. All right, it's going to be worse in this time period, man. You know, and they're setting up for a bigger event. Like I mentioned, Esau is using Jake as a scapegoat, but they're setting up for more. They know that, you know, it's going to be civil unrest, upheaval. All right, you know, people are in distress, you know, because of the economy. All right, the prices going up, wages aren't going up, people can't afford to survive. All right, people are working 2 jobs in certain areas, man, and still are homeless. You know, so this atmosphere that's being created, or through the mismanagement of Esau, Edom, of this society, man, is bringing people on the cusp of crashing out. Well, people are already crashing out, man, but we're gonna see complete civil unrest. All right, we're going to see great judgment happen upon Jake. As a matter of fact, let's grab this in Jeremiah. And we're going to grab a couple precepts, prophecies concerning 70 AD. All right, because this is going to be 70 AD 2.0, man. All right, this is going to be worse. But Jeremiah chapter 30 and 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. And the he that is speaking about is the elect of the nation of Israel, those that turn from their transgressions in Jacob. But everything that Jacob is about to experience and go through, all right, as the scripture says in the book of Jeremiah, I believe it's the 4th chapter, says how our people procure these things unto themselves. This is Jeremiah chapter 4 and verse 18. Thy way and thy doings have procured these things unto thee. This is thy wickedness, because it is bitter, because it reacheth into thine heart. Right. So the wickedness that Jake is walking in, all right, is the reason why the Lord is going to allow this devil to come in, all right, and do what he's going to do. All right. Judge them after his own judgments, man. Jake is going to get tortured, just like they were doing when they were capturing certain of our people, when they were trying to flee Jerusalem at a certain point. They were capturing Jake like 500 a day. You know, going back into the accounts of Josephus, man, and they would torture them, all right, before they would put him to death. You know, so that same spirit that's in Esau, Edom, is rousing up again. All right, he's gonna come with that great hatred against you tribes, man. Okay, but as it is written, jumping up in this chapter, Jeremiah 4 and 14, O Jerusalem, wash thine heart from wickedness, that thou mayest be saved. How long shall thy vain thoughts lodge within thee? Right. So the way to get delivered, all right, is to cleanse yourself through this word. All right, to turn from your iniquities and your sins and submit to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, right? To walk in faith, you know, to be obedient unto him and so on and so forth. But our people have refused that, man. All right, they refused his word. They rejected the Lord. They rejected his prophets that were given his message. All right, so when these things happen, as the scripture says, nobody perished being innocent, man. The way that Jake is moved, the way that Jake was thinking, the same thing that was written in the book of Genesis. All right, it says, before the Lord brought that flood, men's hearts were evil continually. All right, so the way that Jake operates, the way that they move, their actions, so on and so forth, that are in complete opposition to these scriptures, to this word, to what's pleasing to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, they're bringing these severe punishments upon themselves, man. All right, and we see that the Lord is about to unleash upon our people through Esau, Edom. All right, like it is written in the book of Isaiah, the 10th chapter, O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, the staff in their hand is mine indignation. All right, the Lord is going to give him a charge to take the spoil, to take the prey, and to tread Jake down like the mire of the streets. Revelation 12 and 12, the devil shall come down having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time, man. So we're going to see that great wrath poured out. But this is the book of Daniel, chapter 12 and verse 1. It says, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. All right, so this is going to be a time like no other, man. All right, and once again, those that are going to be delivered is the elect of the nation of Israel, man. You know, but this is going to far surpass what we're going to read about in history, all right, in the Josephus, different events that we went through in slavery, when Jacob was being fed to alligators, right? When Jacob was going through all types of calamities, man. What we're about to witness in this time period is going to far surpass all of those events, man. All right, the Lord has a collection of judgment that he's going to pour out in a short amount of time, man. All right, a short amount of time, man, and it's going to be grievous, as it is written in the book of Jeremiah, the 16th chapter, that they would die of grievous deaths. And that was when the Babylonians came in to besiege our people back then. So how much more now? All right, this is the book of Luke chapter 19. Luke chapter 19 and verse 43. It says, for the day shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee and compass thee round about and compass thee round and keep thee in on every side. Right. So this happened during 70 AD, that siege of Jerusalem. All right. But we're seeing this happen in today's time as well. The enemy casting a trench about thee. That's a siege. A modern day siege is happening. All right. The enemies are compassing our people. All right. Jerusalem is a people before it's a place. So as these troops are coming in, they're surrounding Jake. They're going to start cutting off the food supplies. All right. You know, Jake is going to get starved. Jake is going to go through the famine. Jake is going to go through these things, man. It's going to be horrible, man. It says, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave thee in thee one stone upon another, because thou knowest not the time of thy visitation. Right. So I want to read this in the NLT. Let me pull it up. So that was Luke chapter 19 and verse 43. Pull up the NLT on this. Luke 19 and 43 in the NLT. Before long, your enemies will build ramparts against you, against your walls, and encircle you and enclose in on you from every side. They will crush you into the ground, and your children with you. Your enemies will not leave a single stone in place, because you did not accept your opportunity for salvation. So to get delivered from these things, it's been laid out. The prophets have been out there, crying aloud, sparing not, telling Jacob what they need to stop doing. All right, showing the people their transgressions, the house of Jacob their sins. Jeremiah the 18th chapter. All right, Jeremiah was out there prophesying. All right, so that what? So that the wrath of the Lord could be turned away from the people. But like it says in the book of 2 Chronicles, the 36th chapter, they mocked the messengers, all right, misused his prophets, all right, despised his words, until what happened? Until the wrath of the Lord was poured out. And that wrath was shown forth through what? The Lord sending the Babylonians to besiege Jake, to starve Jake out in the siege, all right, and then to break through and slaughter Jake. And when Jake was trying to escape, all right, the Babylonians was killing people, you know, destroying people, the same thing, you know, similar to what was happening during 70 AD, as we're going to read about. And the same thing that's going to happen in this time period on a whole nother level, man. All right, this is the book of Luke, the 21st chapter. All right, let's grab these prophecies, because that was prophecy, man, concerning 70 AD. Luke chapter 21 and verse 20. It says, and when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. So once again, this is talking about 70 AD, but applying it in the spirit, we're seeing the troops compass about Jerusalem, where our people are, all right, high concentrated areas of Jake, all right, and they're being compassed about with these different troops, man. And that what? That was a sign that the desolation was drawing nigh. So applying it in the spirit, the desolation is nigh, man. Jacob's judgment, all right, troops killing people, you know, it's going to be bad out here, man. It says, then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter therein too. Right, so the Lord told us to flee in that time. But in this time period, all right, what's instructed of us, man? All right, to wait upon the Lord, man. See, he's going to raise up a standard. He's going to deliver us, so we don't need to go flee to another country or whatever the case may be. All right, we need to cry out unto the Lord, and he's going to deliver us out of all these different tribulations and the circumstances that we're going to find ourselves in. All right, our faith and obedience to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, all right, what we've been sowing in the spirit to the Lord now, all right, is creating that hedge, all right, or we're building that ark, should I say, so that we can be protected in these times to come when the Lord is pouring out judgment out here, man, so that he looks upon us and Lord's will has mercy upon us, man. All right, because of the faith that he's given us to walk in, right? It says, then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter therein too. Right, so this is what Jake should have done. All right, but a lot of our people, they didn't take heed unto the doctrine that was given by Yahweh Shai, that of course the apostles continue to pass on, okay, to the rest of the believers. So when this judgment came, those that weren't following the proper doctrine, all right, that fled to Jerusalem, okay, they got slaughtered, man. All right, easy work for the Romans, man. All right, they got slaughtered. All right, they was stumbling over bodies headed to the temple, man. You know, bodies that perished in the famine, bodies that perished through the marauders. All right, the different sects of Jake that was going through and ravaging houses and so on and so forth, man. You know, that was killing Jake in the streets. You know, it was horrible conditions, man. You know, horrible conditions, man. So this time is going to be a lot worse. All right, let's grab one more. Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Then we're going to hop into this history. Deuteronomy chapter 28. And I'm going to read this in the NLT. Once again, another prophecy concerning 70 AD. But Deuteronomy 28 and 52. In the NLT, it says, they will attack your cities until all the fortified walls are in your walls in your land. The walls you trusted to protect you are knocked down. They will attack all the towns in the land the Lord Yahweh your power has given you. And this happened in that siege in the KJV. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates until thy high and fenced walls come down, which is what happened. wherein thou trustest throughout all thy land, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord Yahweh thy power hath given thee. In the NLT, verse 53, the siege and terrible distress of the enemy's attack will be so severe that you will eat the flesh of your own sons and daughters. Right, we have an account of that happening in Josephus, man. Mary of Bethzebub or something like that. You know, where she ate her son. All right, she cut up half her son, ate one half of it, and then saved the rest for another, for later, man. All right, so these things, man, when the Lord was giving these threats, trust and believe, he was not playing at all, man. Jake actually went through these things and they suffered through it, man. It says the siege and terrible distress of the enemy's attack will be so severe that you will eat the flesh of your own sons and daughters, whom the Lord Yahweh your power has given you. The most tender-hearted man among you will have no compassion for his own brother, his beloved wife, and his surviving children. He will refuse to share with them the flesh he is devouring, the flesh of one of his own children, because he has nothing else to eat during the siege and terrible distress that your enemy will inflict on all your towns. Right, and once again, this happened. We're going to read about it, man. It says the most tender and delicate woman among you, so delicate she would not so much as touch the ground with her foot, will be selfish toward the husband she loves, and toward her own son and daughter, she will hide from them the afterbirth and the new baby she is born, so that she herself can secretly eat them. She will have nothing else to eat during the siege and terrible distress that your enemy will inflict on all your towns. And once again, this is a judgment for our people's wickedness, man. You know, so let's grab this. All right, so this is in the Josephus once again, right here. All right, I'm gonna be jumping around in this, but we're on page 567. Let's see, we'll start off here and jumping around. Chapter 12. All right, it says Titus thought fit to encompass the city round with a wall, after which the famine consumed the people by whole houses and families together. So this goes into the historical accounts, all right, of what our people experienced, right? So you could, you know, see where I'm reading from. I'm gonna jump down right here to that underlined portion. Then we're gonna go to the next page. All right, so it says, now at this wall without were erected 13 places to keep garrisons in, the circumference of which put together amounted to 10 furlongs. The whole was completed in 3 days, so that what would naturally have required some months was done in so short an interval as is incredible, right? So they were saying that, you know, Josephus is saying that this would have taken months to do. All right, but when you read even further in this context, but I'm only getting this point, it was like they had a fervency, all right, to hurry up and to build this wall around the city to completely, you know, cut off Jake from being able to escape. All right, because when you read previously, before they built this wall around Jerusalem, all right, so nobody could escape, you had Jakes that were trying to flee because of the famine, and they were being captured. As a matter of fact, I'll jump to that real quick now, just to go into what was happening during that time. So it says, now this is from chapter 11, all right, reading that portion, chapter 11. It says how the Jews were crucified before the walls of the city. So they were literally crucifying Jake, all right, around the city, and just so that Jake would be afraid and they would see and hopefully surrender, man. All right, but they had crosses where Jake was just hanging from him, man, all surrounding the city, man, showing you the the gruesomeness of this devil, man. And Jake don't think that this is the same devil coming back, and he's coming back with a greater hatred, a greater fury. This is the end of his kingdom. You know, he ain't gonna rise again. He know he has but a short time, so he gonna let it all out, and the Lord is gonna allow him to do it, man. It says concerning Antiochus Epiphanes and how the Jews overthrew the banks that had been raised by the Romans. All right, so I'm gonna jump down. Let me see. All right, so people were trying to escape the famine, you know, just to give a little context. But it says, for they could not hope to escape away together with their wives and children without the knowledge of the seditious. So you had the seditious, and he's talking about the people that were in the city that were going through the houses. They were taking the goods. If Jake had food, that was going through the cribs, taking the food for themselves and so on and so forth. So it was a lot of the love of many waxing cold, should I say, man. A lot of that going down, marauders, people gathering together on the hunt for food. All right, all types of, you know, calamities happening. All right, so it says, so they were like, we can't even escape these marauders, man, with our, you know, with our families and everything like that. So people were thinking like, man, I could probably escape, you know, on my own, but I can't escape with my wife, my children, and us all get out of here without them marauders catching us. All right, and even if we do escape, all right, then if we get caught by the Romans, they're going to torture us. All right, they're going to torture us. They're going to send us into slavery. So it was no way out. That's why the scriptures talk about the Lord bringing the evil which ye shall not be able to escape. You know, it says, if you go outside the city, the sword is there, and inside the city is pestilence and famine, in the book of Ezekiel, the 7th chapter. So it's nothing but judgment, you know, all around, man. So it says, nay, the severity of the famine made them bold in thus going out. So nothing remained but that when they were concealed from the robbers, they should be taken by the enemy. And when they were going to be taken, they were forced to defend themselves for fear of being punished. As after they had fought, they thought it too late to make any supplications for mercy. So they were first whipped and then tormented with all sorts of tortures before they died, and were then crucified before the wall of the city. So when Jake was escaping, all right, when the Romans grabbed him, before they were crucifying, they would take him through torturing, man, you know, and then hang him in front of the surrounding the city. So this is the type of energy that this devil is coming in, man. All right, and they were laughing at it, they were joking about it, you know, they actually enjoyed partaking in this, man. Just like Esau is, you know, taking pictures by the alligator Alcatraz sign, you know, laughing at, you know, Jake being sent to detention centers and so on and so forth. This devil got the same energy, man. All right, you got all these people that are signing up by the thousands, man, all right, to join ICE. You know what I'm saying? You know, these devils is coming with that wrath, man. All right, so it says, so I'm gonna jump back to what I was originally reading. All right, going into when they had set up that wall around the city. Now let's jump down in this. It says, so all hope of escaping was now cut off from the Jews. Together, talking about our people, the Israelites, man, all right, that was in that land. It says, and what's so cold about it is the Lord set up Jake to where they did this siege during the Passover, man. So you have people that were traveling, okay, to come to Jerusalem, all right, and they were traveling from different lands, and it was just the judgment of the Lord. The Lord had certain people that was in this land and that land, and he wanted them to suffer through this siege, man. So it shows you how cold the Lord is in orchestrating his judgment upon the wicked, man. See, nobody escapes, all right? But anyways, so all hope escaping was now cut off from the Jews, together with their liberty of going out of the city. Then did the famine widen its progress and devoured the people by whole houses and families. The upper rooms were full of women and children that were dying by famine. And the lanes of the city were full of the dead bodies of the aged. The children also and the young men wandered about the marketplaces like shadows, all swelled with famine, and fell down dead wheresoever their misery seized them. As for burying them, those that were sick themselves were not able to do it. And those that were hardy and well were deterred from doing it by the great multitude of those dead bodies, and by the uncertainty there was how soon they should die themselves. So they were like, it's too many bodies to even bury, you know. They were like, shit, I'm finna die. I ain't finna go bury these bodies, man. You know? So it says, for those who were just, let me see. Yep, it says, for many died as they were burying others, and many went to their coffins before that fatal hour was come. Nor was there any lamentation made under these calamities, nor were heard any mournful complaints. But the famine confounded all natural passions. So that shows you, man, how a famine, man, that changes the atmosphere, man. That famine, Jake going through a famine is going to be a game changer, man. It's going to be humbling, all right? That is going to be a great humbler, pining away because of the famine, like it talks about in the book of Lamentations, man. Women boiling their own children. That's going to be a game changer, man. It says,
For those who were just going to die looked upon those that were going to their rest before them with dry eyes and open mouths. A deep silence also, and a kind of deadly night had seized upon the city. While yet the robbers were still no more terrible than these miseries were themselves. For they break open those houses, which were no other than graves of dead bodies, and plundered them out of what they had, and carrying off the coverings of their bodies. So you had Jake that was dying of the famine in the cribs. All right, then you had groups of people going into the crib, searching it, trying to take food and, you know, look for anything that they can grab, taking the clothes off of dead bodies for themselves. Like, Jake don't think that it's going to get that bad. All right, the scriptures talk about how we look for food in the peril of our lives in that Lamentations, the 5th chapter, man. During that siege of the Babylonians, man, it said how the women were ravished in the streets, how men were hung. Jake was dying of the famine. That was terrible, man, you know. But it says, and carrying off the coverings of their bodies, went out laughing and tried the points of their swords on their dead bodies. And in order to prove what metal they were made of, they thrust some of those through that still lay alive upon the ground. But for those that entreated them to lend them their right hand and their sword to dispatch them, they were too proud to grant their requests and left them to be consumed by the famine. So you had people that were on the ground, pining away of a famine. They're seeing these marauders coming through, killing people, you know, that's on the ground, you know, sticking the sword through them and everything like that. All right. And they asked, you'll have somebody pining away and begging, please just kill me, take the sword through me. And then one of the marauders will come by, and the fact that he begged about it, you know, they'll be like, nah, we just want to let that nigga die of famine. You know, just heartless, man. You know, it's like, shit, here it is, you killing people. But the fact that he asked you to kill him, he like, nah, I'm finna let that nigga pine away. You know, like, man, people's gonna be bugged out in these times, man. People's gonna be bugged out, you know? Like, that's crazy, man. But it says, but for those that entreated them to lend them their right hand and their sword to dispatch them, they were too proud to grant their requests and left them to be consumed by the famine. Now every one of these died with their eyes fixed upon the temple and left the seditious alive behind them. Now the seditious at first gave orders that the dead should be buried out of the public treasury, as not enduring the stench of their dead bodies. But afterwards, when they could not do that, they had then them cast down from the walls into the valleys beneath. You know, so you can see just how gruesome, man, that judgment was, man. You know, in 70 AD, and once again, the Lord prophesied about these different things, and Moses did as well. So I'm gonna jump over to page 578. All right, right here, and this is gonna go into what this woman Mary of Bethzeba, what she went through, man. All right, you know, fulfilling that Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. You know, Jake eating their children. You know, but this is what chapter is this? Chapter 5. Oh, I'm sorry. This is chapter 3. Yeah. Yep. This is in chapter 3, and the headline of this chapter is concerning a stratagem that was devised by the Jews by which they burnt many of the Romans, with another description of the terrible famine that was in the city. It says, now of those that perished by famine in the city, the number was prodigious, and the miseries they underwent were unspeakable. For if so much as the shadow of any kind of food did anywhere appear, a war was commenced presently, and the dearest friends fell a fighting one with another about it, snatching from each other the most miserable supports of life. Right, so let me go ahead and grab a precept just on that. Now I had quoted that Lamentations. We can grab that. All right, Lamentations chapter 5 in verse I'll start at verse 9 in the NLT. We hunt for food at the risk of our lives. So showing you how your life was on the line just by getting food. All right, if you got food, your life was on the line. You were a target. You know, he said wars commenced by the smallest scrap of food that was found. It says we hunt for food at the risk of our lives, and this is speaking about the siege of the Babylonians when they besieged us, man. You know, and this is an actual account in 70 AD when this happened. So these type of things are going to happen again. Once again, Ecclesiastes 1:9. That which had been is that which shall be. There's no new thing under the sun. We hunt for food at the risk of our lives, For violence rules the countryside. The famine has blackened our skin as though baked in an oven. Our enemies ravish the woman in Jerusalem and the young girls in all the towns of Judah. So this is what happens when society collapses. All right. You know, when distress is brought upon people, the love of many waxing cold. Right. So going back to this account, oh, as a matter of fact, one more precept in the book of 2nd Ezra. All right, this is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15 and verse 18. For because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. And that's what those marauders were doing, man. A marauder is a person that goes through and plunders and, you know, steals goods and everything like that. But there were groups of them, man, you know. Groups of them that were going through and just stealing, taking from Jake, killing Jake, you know, of our own people. All right, because of that, that lack of bread, right? So anyways, it says, nor would men believe that those who were dying had no food, but the robbers would search them when they were expiring, lest anyone should have concealed food in their bosoms and counterfeited dying. Nay, these robbers gaped for want and ran about stumbling and staggering along like mad dogs, and reeling against the doors of the houses like drunken men. They would also, in the great distress they were in, rush into the very same houses 2 or 3 times, and one in the same day. All right, so they were going through the cribs multiple times a day. All right, you can only imagine, man, women in there. What you think is happening to them, man? People is hungry, you know. You already know they snatching them up, taking them, ravishing the woman. So it's once again, man, if these things were happening back then, then this is going to be a time like no other. It's going to be way worse than this time, man. It says, moreover, their hunger was so intolerable that it obliged them to chew everything, while they gathered such things as the most sordid animals would not touch, and endured to eat them. Nor did they at length abstain from girdles and shoes. And the very leather which belonged to their shields they pulled off and gnawed. Right, so they were eating shoes, you know. They were eating leather belts and different things like that, man. The very wisp of old hay became food to some, and some gathered up fibers and sold a very small weight of them for 4 drachmae, however much that is. But why should I describe the shameless impudence that the famine brought on men in their eating inanimate things, while I am going to relate a matter of fact, the like to which to history relates either among the Greeks or barbarians? It is horrible to speak of it and incredible when heard. All right, so now he's going to go into the account. Now there was a certain woman dwelt beyond Jordan. Her name was Mary. Her father was Eleazar of the village of Bethzub, which signifies the house of hyssop. She was eminent for her family and her wealth, and had fled away to Jerusalem with the rest of the multitude, and was with them besieged therein at this time. The other effects of this woman had been already seized upon, such, I mean, as she had brought with her out of Perea and removed to the city. So, you know, here it is. She's a woman. She's traveling, and everything that she had was already taken from her, right? In this siege, it says, what she had treasured up, besides, as also what food she had contrived to save, had also been carried off by the rapacious guards, who came every day running into her house for that purpose. This put the poor woman into a very great passion, meaning suffering, and by the frequent reproaches and imprecations she cast at these rapacious villains, she had provoked them to anger against her, but none of them, either out of the indignation she had raised against herself or out of the commiseration of her case, would take away her life. And if she found any food, she perceived her labors were for others and not for herself. So even if she got food, she already knew it was going to get taken from her, man. You had men that was going through her crib multiple times a day. So even if she went to go get food on her own and she came back with something, it was going to get snatched from her, man. This is going to be the estate of a lot of different people, man. It says, and it was now become impossible for her any way to find any more food, while the famine pierced through her very bowels and marrow, when also her passion was fired to a degree beyond the famine itself. Nor did she consult with anything but with her passion and the necessity she was in. She then attempted a most unnatural thing, and snatching up her son, who was a child sucking at her breast, she said, O thou miserable infant, for whom shall I preserve thee in this war, this famine, and this sedition? As to the war with the Romans, if they preserve our lives, we must be slaves. So she's like, look, if we go to the Romans, we're going to be slaves. Not even to consider that. They could just torture her and her child, because they were already doing that to the people at that time and putting them up, crucifying them. All right, it says, as the war with the Romans, if they preserve our lives, we must be slaves. This famine also will destroy us even before that slavery comes upon us. Yet are these seditious rogues more terrible than both the other. Come on, be thou my food, and be thou a fury to these seditious varlets, and a byword to the world, which is all that is now wanting to complete the calamity of the Jews. As soon as she had said this, she slew her son, and then roasted him, and ate the one half of him, and kept the other half by her concealed. Upon this, the seditious came in presently, and smelling the horrid scent of this food, they threatened her that they would cut her throat immediately if she did not show them what food she had gotten ready. So they smell some food cooking. They break in the crib like, hold on, man, what's that smell? You know? And they start pressing her, right? It says, let me see. They threatened her that they would cut her throat immediately if she did not show them what food she had gotten ready. She replied that she had saved a very fine portion of it for them, and withal uncovered what was left of her son. Hereupon they were seized with a horror and amazement of mind, and stood astonished at the sight. When she said to them, This is mine own son, what hath been done was mine own doing. Come, eat of this food, for I have eaten of it myself. Do not you pretend to be either more tender than a woman, or more compassionate than a mother. But if you be so scrupulous, and do abominate this my sacrifice, as I have eaten the one half, let the rest be reserved for me also. Right? So she was like, shoot, if this is, don't act like, this is something that's horrible. Y'all was so hungry, and y'all was coming up in the crib, looking for all the food and everything like that. You can eat this, and at this time, they ended up rejecting, they were horrified at it, man, but certain people, they would have like, well, shit, I'm eating that too. This is what happened during that siege, man. This was terrifying, man. As a matter of fact, let's grab this in Lamentations, the 4th chapter. Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 4. The tongue of the suckling child cleaveth to the roof of his mouth for thirst. The young children ask bread, and no man breaketh it unto them. They that did feed delicately are desolate in the streets. They that were brought up in scarlet embrace dunghills. Right, and it said that she was from a prominent family. She would have been eating delicately, man. All right, high status. Right, but look at what she was brought to in the NLT. The people who once ate the richest foods now beg in the streets for anything they can get. Those who once wore the finest clothes now search the garbage dumps for food. And this is going to happen again, man. All right. Going to happen again, man. Horrible, horrible judgments, man. But let's jump down. Lamentations chapter 4, verse 9. They that be slain with the sword are better than they that be slain with hunger. For these pine away, stricken through for the want of the fruits of the field. The hands of the pitiful woman, meaning the tender-hearted ones that actually care for their children, all right, like this woman, right, have sodden their own children, meaning what? They boiled them, they cooked them. They were their meat in the destruction of the daughter of my people. So once again, this is going to happen again, man. All right, this is going to happen again. It says, after which those men went out trembling, being never so much affrighted at anything as they were at this, and with some difficulty they left the rest of that meat to the mother, upon which the whole city was full of horrid action immediately. And while everybody laid this miserable case before their own eyes, they trembled as if this unheard of action had been done by themselves. So those that were thus distressed by the famine were very desirous to die. And those already dead were esteemed happy, because they had not lived long enough either to hear or see such miseries, man. So to die before brought to the brink of cannibal, that was a mercy, man. So, man, once again, this is history, man. And I'm gonna bring out that Daniel 12:1 one more time and end it out, man. This is gonna be bad, man. It is gonna be bad, man. And that's why, it's So important to walk in the fear of the Lord, because if you truly fear the Lord, man, he's not going to allow you to suffer through pining away because of famine. All right, he's going to be a protection that says, my servants shall eat while everybody is being hungry and thirsty, you know, going through these plagues, man. His servants are going to be protected and taken care of, man. This is the book of Daniel 12:1 again. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. So a time like no other is coming again, man. And as we see these troops come past, and we know that desolation is coming soon. All right. So I'm going to end it right there through the Spirit. Lord's wood, I was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, pushing out this word in all sincerity and in truth. With that, I'm going to say shalom.